Hey, what's going on? This is the Body Punch Podcast, and my name is Naz. What an amazing showcase by Max Holloway. He cemented his legacy with his fight against Calvin Kattar. And the heart and determination that Calvin Kattar showed was almost impeccable on its own. But the way that Max Holloway went through that fight and the way that he showed his confidence by looking away and still hitting Calvin Kattar with shots, talking to DC, it was just amazing to see. And to have someone so confident in there, not worried about taking shots, while he's literally looking away from his opponent. It almost looked like we were watching someone in the Matrix. And what a way to start the partnership between the UFC and ABC. Max was perfect in the moment. And the chip that he showed on his shoulder, man, you don't want to get this guy angry. I was telling people who don't watch Max fight usually, and that don't know his out of octagon personality, that he's one of the nicest guys in the UFC and in MMA. They literally didn't believe me. They're like, are you kidding me? This guy? He can't be the nicest. He's so ruthless in there. And the way that he almost tried to embarrass Calvin Kattar after Kattar even, it was just because Kattar thought that he was the best boxer in the UFC. Just by saying that, it put this massive chip on Holloway's shoulders. And it made him want to show everybody who the real greatest boxer is. Now, there still could be argument on that, but it was just, Calvin Kattar just said it. And the amount of output that Max Holloway had was amazing. To see a guy not get tired and just put it on someone. You know, Max really builds up. He's like a boiling water. It takes a little bit of time for it to boil. But Max 2.0, from the start of the fight till the end, was keeping that constant pace. And like I mentioned before, Max has a steady pace. That's how he beats you. He uses his cardio as a weapon. And that's what he did in this fight. He didn't take one step back. Always moving forward, getting Kattar against the cage. And then kudos to Kattar. With his back up against the cage, he was still trying to muster something. And you could see every once in a while he would throw this crazy hook, and you're like, man, if that hit, it'd be all over. That's why I don't think that Kattar's team was in the wrong for not throwing in the towel or not even questioning Kattar. Because first of all, he was able to answer all of the questions that his corner had for him. He was having a cohesive conversation with his team. He was still smiling while he was in the octagon. He looked like he was still all there. And every once in a while, he would throw those bombs. And we've seen Kattar knock people out like that. He was even throwing the vicious elbows that he's known for against Max, that he even knocked out Jeremy Stevens with. But you know what Max said? Max said, you throw elbows, I throw elbows as well. And to just move back to Max, he was using some of Kattar's moves on him just to make it a point that you can't doubt him. No way you can doubt him. And to do this on the ABC card with the fans back in attendance for the UFC for the first time and the first card in 2021. It is so exciting. And to have the lull that we had without having fights for a couple weeks, well, that just built the anticipation even more. And to watch Max do what he does best, it's incredible. Now, Max is saying that he's going to stay on Fight Island and wait to see if any of the fights between either Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, if one of them failed to make it to the octagon, he's going to step in for them, for one of them. Now, I think he also meant the co-main event for that card. But I think he's way more interested to either get his loss back from Conor or Dustin. Because remember, he lost to both. One being Dustin Poirier, that was at 155. The other being at 145 against Conor McGregor when he was making that run. All three of them are different fighters now, so that would be a really interesting fight. But then Dana White came out at his post-fight press conference with the media and really said no. He wants Max to go back home and rest up. And it looks like Dana is totally sold on the fact that Max should fight for the belt again against the winner of Brian Ortega and Volkanovski. I agree with Dana on this. But my other side, like the other side of my brain just goes like, wow, what kind of amazing story and how great would it be if Max actually stayed and fought one of the fighters in the next week's main event. Now, I would hate to see Poirier and McGregor fall out, because who knows if they'll even take the fight against Max. This might be a good opportunity for them because Max just came off this fight against Kattar, which he looked pretty beat up in. Even though he was putting it on Kattar, visually, Max Holloway, after the fight, seeing some of the photos, seeing the post-fight press conference, he still looked pretty beat up. And it doesn't look like he'll be able to heal in 1 week for that fight. And I really don't want to see Conor or Poirier fight someone else. I need them to fight each other because it's been built up now. We're going to see what Conor McGregor's at his full strength, having his full camp. Looks like he doesn't have any injuries, but we might find out after you get the real story after the fight, obviously. Poirier looks like he's ready to fight Conor. He's been training. They're both really at their peak. And I wouldn't want to just push someone in there and then all of that training, all of that, them looking at films and all that kind of stuff goes out the window. But here's another thing that came up. So Dana White gave the news that Khabib Nurmagomedov wants to see someone do something special so that he may return and fight them. Now, I don't think it was pretty like spectacular news or anything like that. He literally said maybe. So we're still in the dark. Khabib could still say no. And I mean, he doesn't have to come back. He gave a maybe. And then Dana White said that the GSP fight is not happening at all. Both GSP and Khabib say that they don't want that fight. But if we go into like a dream scenario right now, I would love to see Max Holloway and Khabib go at it. And here's another thing. Dana said that he doesn't want to see Max Holloway back at 155. He thought for a while that Max was a 155er, but just in the wrong weight division. But then after fighting Dustin Poirier, he felt like he's a true 145er. And now it looks like Max Holloway is making the 145-pound mark a lot easier than before. But I don't know. I think Max just showed a different side of himself. Max Holloway 2.0. A guy that comes rushing at you from the beginning of the fight to the end of the fight, and to have the cardio to go all 5 rounds and keep the same relentless pace against you. And even in this fight against Calvin Kattar, having some all-time strike records on the feet. I think that's something that people are not looking at. People see the all-time strike records. Those also include ground and pound. I think when you're mounted on someone and you're hitting them with shots and just hitting them with, keep busy type shots, well, that adds a lot to the overall number. Now, Max went in this fight and it looked like whenever he wanted to hit Calvin Kattar, he was able to hit him. You could just see it. Calvin Kattar would throw some strikes at the end of Max Holloway's combinations. Max would do his amazing dodging and parrying and all that kind of stuff. And then he would string his combination back up. And then Calvin Kattar always, like the fight had a rhythm to it. The rhythm of this fight was like 3 beats for Max, 1 beat for Calvin Kattar. What I saw in this fight was Max was throwing all of his combinations, hitting Calvin Kattar, and then Calvin Kattar waiting, shelling up, waiting for all of these shots to hit him. He could dodge him. And then at the end of the combination, he went after Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar went after Max. Calvin Kattar wasn't breaking up the beats. Like if a fighter has like, let's say 3 beats, right? Like Max Holloway here. Calvin Kattar has 1 beat. He's got to break up the beats of Max Holloway. He's got to take him out of his rhythm and then back him up. I think that was what was missing from this fight. And that's what we thought Calvin Kattar could do. With his boxing, with his knockout power, we thought that he might be able to back up Max Holloway. But this guy, Max Holloway, went in there with no fear at all, exposing his chin at certain points, looking away. Like, that was amazing. Like, I've never, like, all of the crazy strikers out there that do their dance. Like, I remember Cody Garbrandt doing it to, Dominic Cruz. He was like dancing, do the robot, all that kind of stuff. But Max Holloway just had this, like, it wasn't once in the fight. It was throughout the whole fight. And he's done this multiple times. Against Brian Ortega, he was teaching him how to dodge. How to block shots, how to throw a punch. He was really embarrassing him. And then against Calvin Kattar here, he was, it must have been so demoralizing for Kattar to be in front of the greatest featherweight of all time, and he's literally toying with you. It was crazy. Crazy to see. And I don't know the numbers or anything behind this ABC fight, but I hope a lot of people watch this, because once you watch, this is one of those fights that you watch and you fall in love with the sport. You see all the nuances. You see how technical it can be. This sport is so special because a lot of people think that you just go in and you throw punches and there's no technique or there's no thought process behind it. But what Max Holloway demonstrated here was the amount of thought process that goes into the fight game, the amount of planning and thinking in the moment. Mike Tyson says that fighting is a thinking man's sport. And this was really shown here. Max Holloway was on point. I don't even know how he saw some of the shots. At one point, he was dodging like crazy. Like he was just in the center of the octagon. I think it might have been the 3rd or 2nd round where Max just looked like he had a third eye or something. He was able to see the shots that Kattar was going to hit him with. He knew the combinations. He knew what was coming next. And man, was it special to watch. I just feel grateful that I got to watch it. And on top of that, just to put a cherry, this fight was at an amazing time. Just to watch it, and after the fight, knowing that you could still do something else, and you're not up until 1 a.m. watching post-fight press conferences and all that kind of stuff, was amazing on its own. And it added to it because you thought about it for the rest of the day. Man, was it amazing. Great fight. Max Holloway came and delivered. And how special would it have been to be one of those fans? To witness something that amazing. I remember I watched Max Holloway fight one time. And it was just special to see him. I got up real close to the cage and all that kind of stuff. And it was just special to even witness him after his victory. This was after the second Jose Aldo fight. And watching him come out of the octagon, you just knew that he was someone special. And the performances that he's had so far are incredible. And the age, oh my God, he's so young. For the amount of experience that he has, this guy's going to be here for a long time dominating people, man. Crazy. And to think that some people wrote him off and thought that Calvin Kattar would be the one to defeat him. Okay, so let's talk about the other fights that were on this card quickly, and then we can wrap it up. But so Matt Brown versus Carlos Condit. I mean, that fight, Carlos Condit really showed. I mean, it was crazy to see that he was still throwing those vintage combinations that ended with that leg kick. I mean, they were going at it. Matt Brown looks like one of the fittest 40-year-olds that I've seen. I mean, they were both going at it. It was a fun fight. If you didn't know who these two were, then you would automatically be like, okay, this is a great fight. But at the beginning of the fight, you saw the highlight package of Carlos Condit taking out people, Matt Brown taking out people. It reminded you of who these guys were. And when they put them against each other, it had a really fun element to it. And it was just fun to see. And especially, I'm going to harp on this, but the Abu Dhabi crowd was very knowledgeable. Even on the ground, cheering and not booing or not doing anything. They were really excited just to see fights. And it was fun to hear. Last thing about this, Carlos Condit, this was his last fight on his contract. I mean, where do we think he's going to go? I mean, Bellator would be a great home for him, but I think he's just so loyal to the UFC. He's spent so much time in the UFC. But in Bellator, he might be able to make more of a run if he wanted to for the belt. Scott Coker might be able to work with him to get the fights that he wants. But who knows? If Carlos Condit really believes in himself, I feel like he could still fight in the UFC. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know if he'll be able to make the run. I don't think he'll be able to make the run at all. But that's where the conversation of Bellator comes in, and any organization. I mean, PFL is doing some great things right now and getting some really high-ranking top athletes in their organization. So let's talk about the Ponzinibbio Lee fight. I mean, Lee put the cap on it, knocking him out in the first round. It's sad to see Ponzinibbio. Some people were saying that he could have won the belt. But Lee just came in there and with his devastating power, really put it on Ponzinibbio. I just wanted to mention that, Lee came in here with a lot of weight on his shoulders because of the name that Ponzinibbio has. And to go in there and knock him out in the first round is amazing. I just wanted to say about the Buckley fight. Man, he's lost before, but he's had this momentum after that spinning head kick. He just had this momentum that hopefully got overshadowed by the amazing fight that Max Holloway had. A lot of people are still going to remember him for the kick, and especially coming after that kick and knocking his last opponent out, but then getting knocked out by a head kick like that. It sucks to see, but we all know he's going to come back he's just gotta. I said this in my preview show for this Fight Night card, that he's really gotta bring back the thinking element of his game. He's such an amazing thinker that we've seen in the past. And he's just got to bring that back and not rush people right away. Because the shot that he got hit with, he thought that it was going to be a lot, what was it, higher? Yeah, because he was ducking down. He thought it was going to be a lot higher than it actually was. And he just got hit right on the button and got knocked out. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of fun fights on this card. Just looking through it, there was a lot of knockouts actually. I just wanted to talk about the Tafa fight. I said that this would be an exciting fight. It was an exciting fight. I mean, Felipe was jawing at him, and Tafa, this might be because I'm such a Mark Hunt fan. He fights exactly like his mentor, Mark Hunt. And he just stays cool, calm, and collective while bombs are flying past his ears. He's just amazing to watch. But Felipe, he put it on Tafa. In my opinion, I believe Tafa won. I think that he had more of the octagon control. He had more of the strikes. Yeah, I do believe with those leg kicks, Tafa was really affecting. He was really affecting Felipe. So I just wanted to say, I think Tafa won. And that's just the visual test, and I've only watched the fight once. But it was a fun fight, man. It was a super fun fight. And hopefully they get something on the back end, because they didn't win any awards, I don't think. But it was a great fight overall. Great card overall. An amazing showcase for the UFC on ABC. And all the packages and all that kind of stuff that they showed with Muhammad Ali and with the Four Kings and with Muhammad Ali getting interviewed and all that kind of stuff. Great to see that history and mixed martial arts being in that history now. Because you can't take this away from MMA anymore. They're in the books. They're partners with Disney and now with ABC and being on their network. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you guys could like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff on YouTube and on the different podcast platforms, that'd be highly appreciated. Thanks again for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Again, this has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. Bye.